You're about to discover something so profound it might change how you see everything yourself, the world, even time itself. This isn't just another spiritual technique or self-help trick. What you're about to learn was once guarded by ancient teachers, hidden behind layers of mystery and secrecy. Only a few were ever trusted with this knowledge, and now somehow it's found its way to you. Coincidence? Or is something bigger calling you? Inside every one of us lies a forgotten ability, an inner vision that sees beyond what our physical eyes can perceive. You've probably felt it before, those strange moments when you just know something without understanding how. Maybe someone stared at you across a room and you turned around instantly. Or perhaps you had a dream that later came true. These weren't random flukes. They were glimpses of a deeper awareness already built into you. This gift has always been there, quietly waiting for you to notice it. And now, for reasons you may not yet understand, the time feels right. Like a door you didn't realize was closed is finally opening. But here's the thing, once you step through, there's no going back. Your perception of reality will shift. Forever. 1. The two worlds that surround you. Did you know there are two realities happening at the same time, one you see and one you don't? You move between them constantly, though you may only be aware of one. Think of it like walking into a room with two doors. One leads to the familiar world of daily life. The other opens into a dimension most people never even suspect exists. Throughout history, certain individuals have learned how to navigate both. Not with magic or fantasy, but with a skill as natural as breathing. They weren't born special. They simply remembered how to access what we've all forgotten. This ability isn't supernatural, it's supernatural, a part of you designed to awaken. And guess what? Something inside you is already stirring. You feel it, don't you? That subtle pull towards something more. Like a memory trying to surface or a melody just out of reach. That feeling isn't an accident, it's a signal. A whisper from the part of you that knows there's more to life than what meets the eye. 2. The forgotten gift we all possess. Imagine having a second set of eyes not on your face, but within you. A way of seeing that doesn't require light or lenses, but works through intuition, insight, and awareness. This isn't science fiction. Every night while you sleep, you use this power effortlessly in your dreams. In fact, you experience entire worlds without moving an inch. How do you think that happens? Children often tap into this naturally. Ever notice how babies seem to stare at empty space with knowing smiles? Or how young kids talk about things adults can't see? They're not imagining things, they're simply using the gift they haven't yet unlearned. Science is beginning to catch up. Studies show that our brains process far more information than we consciously register. You've experienced this yourself, like when you suddenly knew someone was watching you, or you thought of a friend just before they called. These aren't coincidences. These are moments when your inner vision flickers awake. And now it's your turn to remember how to keep it open. 3. The 3 pillars of inner awakening. To awaken this ability fully, you need a foundation. The ancient masters discovered that 3 core elements must work together to unlock expanded awareness. Think of them like ingredients in a powerful recipe. Missing any one of them, and the whole thing falls apart. The first pillar is conscious silence, not just quiet surroundings, but the stillness between your thoughts. It's the space where your truest self resides, beyond the noise of everyday thinking. Learning to access this silence while staying fully awake is the key to unlocking higher perception. The second is sacred breathing. Breathing is something we all do automatically, but when done with intention, it becomes a bridge between body, mind, and spirit. Ancient traditions understood that specific breathing patterns could open new levels of awareness. Today, we call it breathwork. Back then, it was seen as sacred. The third is directed focus. In a world full of distractions, maintaining deep attention is rare and powerful. Imagine shining a laser beam instead of a flashlight. Scattered light barely affects anything, but focused energy can cut through metal. When you combine this kind of focus with conscious silence and intentional breathing, something incredible begins to unfold. These 3 pillars form the structure upon which inner vision is built. Practice them consistently, and you'll begin to feel the veil thinning. 4. Preparing your personal space. Before diving into the techniques, let's talk about preparation. Many believe they need candles, incense, crystals, or perfect conditions to begin. While these things can help set the mood, the real preparation happens internally in your mind. Your mind is like a garden that's grown wild over time. Thoughts and emotions sprout everywhere, tangled and chaotic. To begin this journey, you don't need to clean the whole garden, you just need to clear a small patch where you can plant your intention. Choose a time each day, even if it's just 10 minutes to commit to your practice. It doesn't matter where you are, your bedroom, a quiet park, or even a bathroom stall during lunch break. What matters is your consistency and commitment. Noise, temperature, and distractions will always be present. Learn to work with them rather than against them. Even traffic outside can become a tool to sharpen your focus. Over time, your mind will recognize this moment as sacred and the habit will grow stronger. 5. The SCP breathing ritual, unlocking expanded awareness. Now comes the heart of the practice, the SCP breathing ritual. This isn't just a way to relax, it's a doorway to heightened perception. Why 7 breaths? Because each breath corresponds to a level of depth, guiding you progressively inward. The first breath is like opening a window after years of being sealed shut. As you inhale, imagine drawing in golden light, a symbol of clarity and energy. With each exhale, release tension as if blowing dust out of a forgotten room. By the second and third breaths, time begins to slow. Your mind detaches slightly from the usual rush of thoughts. Keep your eyelids heavy, but your awareness sharp. The fourth and fifth breaths are where the real shift happens. Some feel warmth or tingling at the center of their forehead. Others see soft colors or shapes behind closed eyes. Don't chase these experiences, just observe them. Let them come and go like clouds passing overhead. In the final 2 breaths, you enter a state of deep calm and alertness. It's like standing at the edge of sleep, yet completely awake. This is where the boundary between worlds thins. Stay relaxed. Trust the process. The inner vision you seek will come when you're ready. 6. The blind spot of consciousness. There's a moment just before sleep when your mind enters a unique state, neither fully awake nor asleep. The ancients called this the blind spot of consciousness. It's a gap in your awareness, a pause in the stream of thoughts. Most people pass through it every night without noticing. It's like driving through a tunnel with the lights off. You know something changed, but you don't remember the transition. But if you begin to pay attention, you'll find that this blind spot isn't empty at all. In fact, it's rich with potential. It's where thought dissolves into stillness, where identity loosens its grip, and where the boundaries between self and world blur. This is not just a neurological phenomenon, it's a doorway. A subtle one, yes, but a doorway nonetheless. To understand this space, think about how your mind usually operates. During waking hours, you're constantly processing information. You're reacting, planning, remembering, and projecting. Even in moments of apparent rest, there's a background hum of mental activity. But in the blind spot, that hum fades. For a brief window, everything goes quiet, not because you've forced silence, but because the machinery of thought has simply paused. This pause doesn't last long. Within seconds, either sleep takes over or you snap back into full wakefulness. But what happens in those few seconds can be profound. Many report sudden insights emerging from this threshold, solutions to problems they hadn't been actively thinking about, forgotten memories resurfacing, or even vivid imagery that feels more real than dreams. The key to accessing this space intentionally is not force, but familiarity. Like learning to hear a faint sound in a noisy room, you have to train yourself to notice the subtle shifts in your awareness. Start by paying attention as you fall asleep. Don't fight the drowsiness, allow it. Instead of letting go completely, try to remain present as your body relaxes and your mind begins to drift. You may feel a sensation of floating or falling. That's common. These are signs that your brain is shifting frequencies from beta, the active waking state, down into alpha and then theta waves. These slower rhythms are associated with daydreaming, meditation, and the early stages of sleep. They're also linked to creativity, intuition, and insight. As you begin to recognize these transitions, you'll start to see that the blind spot isn't just a single point, it's a territory. A landscape of inner experience that exists beyond the usual filters of perception. And once you become familiar with it, you can learn to enter it at will, even during the day. Try this experiment. Sit comfortably and close your eyes. Let your breath slow and deepen. Begin to observe the flow of your thoughts, not engaging with them, just watching. Notice when one thought ends and another hasn't yet begun. Those gaps are the edges of the blind spot. At first, there'll be tiny mere flickers. but with practice, they'll widen. You might find that time behaves strangely in these spaces. A second can stretch into eternity, or an entire minute might vanish without a trace. That's because the linear sense of time we normally rely on is tied to the continuous stream of thought. When that stream slows or stops, time loses its structure. And in that formless space, something else emerges. Not thoughts exactly, but impressions, feelings, images, sometimes words spoken in a voice that seems to come from nowhere and everywhere. These are not hallucinations, they're glimpses of a deeper intelligence that's always present, just usually drowned out by the noise of daily life. Some call this the subconscious, others say it's the collective unconscious. Still others believe it's a direct channel to higher wisdom. Whatever name you give it, one thing is clear: when you access it through the blind spot, it feels profoundly personal and deeply universal at the same time. One of the most fascinating aspects of this state is that it's accessible to everyone. You don't need special training or equipment. You don't need to adopt any particular belief system. All you need is curiosity and the willingness to look inward. Of course, that's easier said than done. Our modern world conditions us to focus outward to chase goals, accumulate experiences, and measure success in external terms. Looking inward can feel uncomfortable, even pointless at first. But the more you do it, the more you realize how much richness lies beneath the surface. In the beginning, your explorations will be short and sporadic. You might catch only a glimpse of the blind spot before being pulled back into thought. But each time you return, you strengthen your ability to stay longer. You build what some traditions call inner muscle, the capacity to remain aware in states where most people lose conscious contact. Eventually, you may find that you can slip into this space even in the middle of a conversation or while walking down the street. It becomes less of a retreat and more of a companion, a quiet presence that stays with you, even as you navigate the chaos of daily life. This doesn't mean you stop thinking altogether. Thoughts still arise, but now you see them for what they are, passing phenomena like clouds drifting across the sky. You no longer identify so strongly with them. You become the observer rather than the thinker. And that shift changes everything. From this new vantage point, you begin to see patterns you couldn't perceive before. You notice how often your actions are driven by old habits, unexamined beliefs, or conditioned responses. You start to question whether the way you've always seen things is truly accurate or just familiar. The blind spot becomes a mirror, reflecting not only the contents of your mind, but the structures that shape your perception. It reveals the assumptions you carry, the stories you tell yourself, and the filters through which you interpret reality. At times, this can be unsettling. Confronting the blind spots in your awareness means confronting the blind spots in your identity. But it also brings clarity, because once you've seen the mechanism behind your own thinking, you gain the freedom to step outside of it. This is not enlightenment in the grand mystical sense. It's more like a quiet awakening, a recognition that there's more to your experience than meets the eye. And once you've touched that space even briefly, you can never quite go back to seeing the world the same way again. So keep returning to the threshold, keep observing the gaps between thoughts, keep exploring the space where nothing is happening and yet everything is possible. Because in the blind spot of consciousness, you're not losing awareness. You're gaining access to a deeper level of it. And that perhaps is the greatest gift of all. 7. The dance of brain waves. Your mind moves through different states throughout the day: alert, relaxed, drowsy, and dreaming. These shifts are like radio frequencies, each offering a different kind of perception. If you pay close attention, you'll notice that your thoughts, emotions, and even physical sensations change depending on where your awareness is tuned at any given moment. During the day, you're mostly in the fast-moving beta wave state, perfect for productivity, but not ideal for inner exploration. Beta waves dominate when you're engaged in active thinking, problem-solving, or decision-making. They keep you grounded in the external world, helping you react quickly to stimuli, meet deadlines, and navigate daily life. But they also come with a cost. This high-frequency state can be mentally exhausting and often blocks access to deeper levels of insight. In beta, your attention tends to stay fixed outward. You're constantly scanning for cues, reacting to emails, interpreting social signals, and managing stressors. While this is essential for functioning in the modern world, it leaves little room for introspection. The internal landscape becomes background noise, something you only notice when things go wrong. But as the day progresses and activity begins to slow, so does your brainwave rhythm. You start to drift into alpha waves, a more receptive state where creativity and intuition thrive. Alpha is the bridge between waking and dreaming, between doing and being. It's where ideas flow freely, inspiration strikes, and relaxation deepens without full detachment from reality. This is the state many artists, writers, and innovators tap into when they describe getting into the zone. Time feels fluid, distractions fade, and the mind opens like a clear sky after storm clouds have passed. In alpha, you're still aware of your surroundings, but your relationship to them softens. You become an observer rather than a reactor. Alpha waves are also common during light meditation, long walks in nature, or even while taking a warm shower. They encourage a sense of calm, reduce anxiety, and allow for mental spaciousness. It's in these moments that insights often surface, not because you were actively thinking about them, but because your mind has shifted into a frequency that allows new connections to form. Deeper still, you enter theta waves, the realm of meditation, dreams, and spontaneous insight. Theta is slower than alpha and operates just below the threshold of conscious awareness. It's the gateway to the subconscious mind, where memories, emotions, symbols, and archetypes reside. Many people report vivid visions, downloads of knowledge, or sudden clarity when they enter this space. Theta is also where hypnagogic experiences occur, the fleeting images, sounds, or sensations that arise as you fall asleep. Some call it the dream door, and for good reason. It's here that time stretches, logic loosens its grip, and the boundaries between self and environment dissolve. In theta, you're not just thinking, you're experiencing. This state is particularly powerful for healing, emotional release, and creative breakthroughs. Traumas stored in the body begin to surface here, often in symbolic form, ready to be acknowledged and integrated. Theta is also where many spiritual seekers report encounters with guides, ancestors, or higher aspects of themselves, though interpretation varies widely based on personal belief systems. Then there's delta, the slowest and most elusive of the brainwave rhythms. Delta waves occur primarily during deep, dreamless sleep and advanced stages of meditation. This is the state of pure unconsciousness, or so we thought. Recent research suggests that delta may also serve as a direct link to universal consciousness, where individual identity dissolves entirely and a profound sense of unity emerges. Delta is rare in waking life, but not impossible to reach. Long-term meditators, mystics, and those who practice deep trance work sometimes access delta while fully awake. In this state, there is no separation between self and other, no distinction between thought and sensation, no boundary between past and present. It's a return to source, an experience so vast that language struggles to contain it. Understanding these brainwave states isn't just academic, it's practical. When you recognize the dance of frequencies happening within you every day, you gain the ability to shift at will. You can learn to move from overactive beta into the calmer waters of alpha, then dive deeper into theta for insight, healing, or visioning. The key lies in awareness and intention. Most people live at the mercy of their default rhythms, stuck in beta during the day, anxious and exhausted, then falling into fragmented sleep instead of cycling naturally through alpha, theta, and delta. But when you begin to observe your own patterns, you can start to guide your nervous system into more supportive states. Start by noticing when you naturally slip into deeper awareness, maybe first thing in the morning, just before waking, or during twilight hours when the world feels hushed and still. These are natural portals. Instead of resisting the shift, lean into it. Let yourself linger in the quiet. You might find that your best ideas come during these in-between times, or that emotional tensions release more easily when you give yourself permission to slow down. Whatever arises, treat it as information, not something to fix, but something to understand. Ride the waves like a surfer learning to read the ocean. With time, you'll find yourself navigating the currents of your own mind with increasing skill and grace. You'll begin to recognize which states serve which purposes, when to focus and produce, when to relax and receive, when to rest and restore. And perhaps most importantly, you'll discover that the boundaries between these states aren't fixed, they're fluid. Just as water can shift seamlessly from ice to liquid to vapor, so too can your awareness shift between waking, dreaming, and deep rest. One of the most powerful practices for exploring brainwave transitions is conscious breathwork. By slowing your breathing, lengthening your exhales, and allowing pauses between inhale and exhale, you can gently coax your brain into lower frequency states. Try this simple technique. Sit comfortably, back straight. Close your eyes and bring your attention inward. Begin to breathe slowly in through the nose, out through the mouth. Let each inhale last about 4 seconds, each exhale 6 to 8. After a few minutes, introduce a 2-second pause at the top of the inhale and the bottom of the exhale. Don't force anything, just allow the breath to settle into a natural rhythm. Stay with it for 10 to 15 minutes, observing how your body and mind respond. You may feel lightheaded at first, that's normal. Your brain is adjusting to a different kind of oxygenation, and old tensions may rise to the surface. But over time, this practice can help you access deeper layers of awareness with surprising ease. Another effective method is guided meditation or binaural beats, auditory tools designed to entrain the brain into specific frequencies. These can be especially helpful if you're new to exploring altered states and need a bit of support to get started. Whichever path you choose, the goal remains the same: to develop familiarity with the full spectrum of your inner experience. To stop identifying solely with the surface-level chatter of beta and rediscover the richness that exists beneath. As you deepen this awareness, you'll also begin to notice how external environments affect your internal state. Noise, light, digital stimulation, all of it influences your brainwaves more than you might realize. A brightly lit, overstimulated room keeps you locked in beta, while dim lighting, soft music, and minimal distractions help you slip into alpha or theta more easily. So be mindful of your surroundings. Create spaces that support the kinds of inner journeys you want to take. Whether it's a quiet corner with a blanket and candle, or a forest trail where birdsong replaces traffic noise, design your environment to match your intention. And remember, this isn't about escaping from life. It's about expanding your capacity to live more fully. By learning to move consciously between brainwave states, you enhance your creativity, improve your emotional regulation, and open up new pathways of perception. Eventually, you'll find that these shifts happen more effortlessly, no longer requiring special conditions or prolonged effort. You'll be able to access alpha clarity while giving a presentation, drop into theta insight during a stressful meeting, or touch delta peace in the middle of a crowded subway. That's the true power of understanding the dance of brain waves, not just to explore the inner world, but to master the art of presence in every layer of existence. So continue tuning in, keep experimenting, watch what happens when you ride the waves of your own mind. Because the more familiar you become with the rhythm of your inner tides, the more freedom you gain to think clearly, feel deeply, and awaken to the full range of human potential. 8. The Guardians of the Threshold. As you progress deeper into inner exploration, you begin to notice something unexpected: resistance. Not from the outside world necessarily, but from within. It shows up subtly at first, a flicker of doubt, a wave of impatience, a nagging sense that maybe this path isn't real after all. These are not random occurrences. They are part of the process. I call them the guardians of the threshold, internal forces that test your readiness, challenge your commitment, and ultimately strengthen your resolve. Think of them as checkpoints on a long journey. Each one must be faced, understood, and passed through not by force, but by awareness. These guardians aren't trying to stop you. They're here to make sure you're truly ready for what lies ahead. Let's explore them one by one. First guardian, doubt. Doubt is often the first to appear. It creeps in quietly, like a shadow stretching across your thoughts. You might start questioning whether any of this is real, whether meditation actually works, whether your insights are valid, or whether you're even capable of walking this path. This is normal. In fact, it's essential. Doubt is the mind's way of protecting you from delusion. It keeps you grounded, prevents you from falling into blind faith, and ensures you don't mistake fleeting experiences for lasting truth. But when left unchecked, doubt can become paralyzing. It can keep you stuck in analysis, always searching for external validation instead of trusting your own experience. The key is to recognize doubt for what it is, not an enemy, but a teacher. Instead of pushing it away, invite it to sit with you. Ask it questions. What exactly are you doubting? Is it the method, or is it yourself? Could there be another way to interpret what you've experienced? Over time, doubt transforms into discernment, the ability to see clearly without being swayed by illusion or overconfidence. That's its gift. Once you learn to work with doubt instead of fighting it, it no longer holds power over you. Second guardian, fear. Once doubt begins to settle, fear often steps forward. But this isn't ordinary fear, the kind that warns you of danger or physical harm. This is a more subtle form of fear, rooted in the unknown. It's the hesitation you feel before stepping into unfamiliar territory. It's the voice that whispers, what if you lose yourself? Or what if everything you believe turns out to be wrong? Fear arises because growth requires change, and change means letting go of control. As you dive deeper into altered states of consciousness, you begin to question long-held assumptions about who you are, why you do what you do, and what reality really is. That can be unsettling. You may find yourself waking up in the middle of the night gripped by a strange unease. Or during meditation, you might feel a sudden wave of anxiety rise from nowhere. These are signs that you're touching the edges of transformation. Again, fear is not trying to stop you, it's trying to protect you. It wants to make sure you're prepared to handle what comes next. The best way to move through fear is not by ignoring it, but by facing it directly. Sit with it, breathe through it, let it speak. Often, once you give fear space to express itself, it softens. What seemed overwhelming in the dark becomes manageable in the light of awareness. And when you do this enough times, fear stops being a barrier and starts becoming a guide, a signal that you're approaching a threshold worth crossing. Third guardian, impatience. After fear comes impatience. By now, you've likely had glimpses of what's possible. You've touched moments of clarity, felt the shift in awareness, seen patterns unfold in ways you couldn't have predicted. And now you want more faster. Impatience is a product of our modern conditioning. We live in a culture of instant results, fast food, quick replies, overnight success stories. So when spiritual growth unfolds slowly, sometimes imperceptibly, you can feel frustrated. You may catch yourself asking, when will I finally get it? Or, why does this still feel so hard? This is where discipline meets surrender. Growth cannot be rushed. Like a seed buried in the earth, it needs time to take root before it can bloom. Impatience is not just about wanting results, it's also about resisting the present moment. It pulls you out of your experience and into a future that doesn't exist yet. To pass through this guardian, you must learn to trust the process, to show up consistently even when nothing seems to be happening, to honor small shifts as much as big breakthroughs. Each day you return to practice, you build momentum even if you don't see it right away. Progress is cumulative. One breath, one thought, one moment of awareness at a time. Eventually, impatience gives way to patience, not passive waiting, but active presence. A willingness to stay engaged without needing immediate proof. And that's when the real magic begins. Fourth guardian, the spiritual ego. Once patience settles in, the final guardian appears, and it's the most insidious of all. This one wears a mask of wisdom, peace, and enlightenment. It speaks in calm tones and offers profound-sounding insights. It is the spiritual ego. Unlike the previous three, which try to block your path through fear or frustration, the spiritual ego tries to lure you off course by making you believe you've already arrived. Suddenly, you feel different from others, special, chosen. You begin to see everyone else as asleep, lost in illusion, while you alone walk the path of awakening. This is dangerous. Spiritual ego is not pride in the usual sense. It's a subtle inflation of identity that uses spiritual language to feed itself. It says things like, I understand things others don't. Only those who meditate deeply can access truth. I've transcended ego. Ironically, the moment you think you've transcended ego is the moment it's strongest. The spiritual ego thrives on comparison, exclusivity, and superiority disguised as humility. It creates divisions between awakened and unawakened, between higher consciousness and lower vibration. Left unchecked, it leads to isolation, arrogance, and a distorted sense of self that undermines true growth. The only way through this guardian is grounding, humility, service. Ask yourself, how does my insight serve others? Can I hold truth without claiming ownership over it? Am I willing to remain a student even as I teach? True wisdom doesn't elevate you above others, it connects you more deeply to them. It recognizes that every person is on their own path at their own pace. When you embrace this, the spiritual ego dissolves not through rejection, but through integration. You no longer need to prove anything to anyone, including yourself. You simply continue walking, passing through. Each of these guardians teaches you something essential. Doubt becomes discernment. Fear becomes respect. Impatience becomes patience. Ego becomes groundedness. They are not obstacles to avoid, they are initiations to welcome. And once you've passed through them, something inside you shifts permanently. You no longer rely on external validation. You no longer chase experiences for their novelty. You no longer fear the unknown. Instead, you carry a quiet confidence born not of certainty, but of lived experience. You know now that the path is real, that transformation is possible, that the deepest truths are not found in grand revelations, but in the simple act of showing up again and again. So when the next challenge arises, and it will, you won't panic. You'll recognize it for what it is. Another guardian, another gate, and beyond it, the next stage of your unfolding. 9. The moment of awakening. One day, without warning, something shifts. You won't be able to explain it, but you'll know it happened. Some describe it as the click, others as a quantum leap. For you, it might feel like waking up from a long dream only to realize that you've been dreaming all along. At first, the signs are subtle. Colors seem brighter, not because the world has changed, but because your eyes have. Synchronicities multiply, those strange little coincidences that line up too perfectly to ignore. A name you haven't heard in years pops up in conversation just when you needed to remember it. A book you randomly pick off the shelf answers a question you hadn't yet formed. These aren't magical occurrences, they're markers of a shift in perception. As your awareness expands, so does your ability to notice what was always there, hidden beneath the noise of daily life. Then, suddenly, the veil lifts. Not all at once, but in layers. It's not dramatic like in movies, no lightning bolts or angels descending. Instead, it feels deeply personal, almost private. Like remembering something you had forgotten for a very long time. You see the world with new eyes, not because anything changed out there, but because something awakened inside you. There's no longer a sharp division between self and other. You begin to sense the flow of energy behind appearances, the rhythm beneath the surface. What once felt separate now feels connected. You feel more present not just in your body, but in the moment. This is not enlightenment in the final absolute sense. It's more like a doorway opening, a glimpse of something vast and boundless. And once you've seen through that door, you can never quite go back to who you were before. But here's the paradox. The more you search for this moment, the more it eludes you. It arrives only when you surrender, when you stop chasing and simply allow. Awakening doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from relaxing into the truth that was always available, waiting patiently beneath the noise of thought, the weight of expectation, and the rush of daily life. And that's why most people miss it. They keep looking outward, thinking they need to do, achieve, or become something more. But awakening isn't about becoming, it's about unbecoming. Letting go of the illusions we carry until only what's real remains. That's also why it often happens in quiet moments. While walking, while washing dishes, while watching the rain fall. It's not dependent on special conditions or spiritual practices, though those may prepare the ground. It arises naturally when the mind is still enough to receive it. Some describe it as seeing clearly for the first time. Others say it's like returning home after a long journey. Whatever metaphor fits best, one thing is certain: nothing looks quite the same afterward. You begin to notice how much of your experience was shaped by assumptions you never questioned. How many decisions were driven by old fears. How often you mistook thoughts for truth. With awakening comes clarity, not just intellectual understanding, but embodied knowing. You don't just believe something is true, you feel it in your bones. Your whole being aligns with it. And this alignment brings a new kind of peace. Not the temporary relief of getting what you want, but a deep, unwavering stillness that remains even in the face of chaos. Because now you know you are not just your body. Not just your thoughts, not just your past. You are something far greater, a conscious presence witnessing the unfolding of life. This realization doesn't erase suffering, nor does it make you invulnerable. You still feel pain, loss, and confusion. But now there's space around those experiences. You no longer get swept away by them. You witness them, hold them with compassion, and let them pass. This is the beginning of true freedom. And here's another surprise. Awakening unfolds in layers. Each time you think you've reached the peak, a new horizon opens. It's not a single event, it's a lifelong unfolding. You might wake up one morning feeling completely transformed, only to find yourself struggling with the same old patterns a few days later. That's normal. Integration takes time. Old conditioning doesn't vanish overnight just because you've seen the bigger picture. In fact, the deeper the awakening, the more intense the integration, because now every part of you is being asked to align with what you've seen. Every belief, habit, and relationship is brought into the light of awareness. Some things will shift easily, others will resist, but each time you return to presence, you reinforce the new way of being. Eventually, the insights settle into your nervous system. They become part of your foundation. And as they do, your life begins to change, not because you forced it to, but because you became someone different. Someone who sees more clearly, feels more deeply, and lives more intentionally. You start making choices that reflect your truest values, not just conditioned responses. You relate to others with more openness and less fear. You trust yourself more than ever before. This is the real work of awakening, not the moment of insight itself, but what you do with it afterward. So don't expect a permanent high. Don't look for constant ecstasy or uninterrupted bliss. Real awakening is quieter, subtler. It's found in ordinary moments lived with extraordinary awareness. It's the ability to stay grounded while seeing clearly, to feel deeply without losing yourself, to move through the world with both wisdom and wonder. If this path has stirred something in you, know that you've only just begun. There's so much more to uncover, so many mysteries waiting to reveal themselves. Stay curious, stay committed, and above all, don't miss what comes next. 10. Navigating the deep waters. Once your inner vision awakens, you begin to notice time behaving strangely. Moments stretch, shrink, or overlap. You may receive insights that span lifetimes in seconds. Synchronicities become so frequent they can no longer be ignored. At first, this can feel disorienting. You might catch yourself wondering, did that really happen? Was it a dream, or did I actually see that? But with time, you realize something important. Time, as you once understood it, is not fixed. It's fluid, especially when consciousness begins to expand. You start to perceive events before they unfold, not in a literal predictive way, but in a felt sense, a knowing that arises without explanation. You walk into a room and already know who will speak next. You pick up a book and flip to a passage that answers a question you hadn't yet asked aloud. These are signs that you're moving through deeper layers of awareness, and with this expansion comes responsibility. You need to distinguish between symbolic visions and direct perception. Just as your eyes differentiate between a tree and its reflection, your inner vision reveals multiple layers of reality. Some experiences come as metaphors, others as direct insight. Learning the difference takes practice and, above all, honesty. This is where many seekers get lost. They mistake symbolism for literal truth or confuse emotional intensity with spiritual depth. One moment they're receiving guidance from an inner voice, the next they're convinced they've been chosen for a cosmic mission. The line between insight and delusion can blur quickly if you're not careful. So how do you stay grounded? By developing an internal anchor, a stable sense of self that remains rooted even as your awareness expands. This anchor is forged through consistent practice, honest self-observation, and trust in your evolving perception. It doesn't mean suppressing what arises, it means learning how to hold space for it without being overwhelmed by it. Think of it like diving into deep water. If you swim out too far without knowing how to return, you risk losing your way. But if you learn to read the currents, build endurance, and always keep sight of the shore, you can explore freely while staying safe. The same applies here. As you move deeper, pay attention to how your body responds. Physical sensations often serve as indicators of what's real and what's not. If an insight brings clarity and calm, it's likely aligned with truth. If it stirs confusion or anxiety, it may be more projection than perception. Also, notice how your relationships shift. As your awareness grows, so does your sensitivity. You begin to pick up on things others don't. You hear unspoken tensions in conversations. You sense energy before words are spoken. Some people will respond positively to this change. They'll appreciate your presence, seek your counsel, and grow alongside you. Others may feel uncomfortable. They may pull away, challenge your perspective, or try to drag you back into old patterns. That's okay. Not everyone walks the same path. Your job isn't to convince them, it's to remain steady in your own truth. To navigate this new terrain, establish daily grounding rituals. These could include morning intentions setting. Take a few minutes each morning to center yourself before stepping into the day. Body scans. Regularly check in with your physical sensations to ensure you're not dissociating from the present. Journaling. Write down what you experience, especially after meditation or moments of heightened awareness. This helps integrate insights and track patterns over time. Nature immersion. Spend time outdoors. Nature has a way of recalibrating your nervous system and reconnecting you to the rhythms of life. Mindful movement practices like yoga, tai chi, or walking meditation help keep energy flowing and prevent stagnation. These practices act as your compass. They remind you that while inner vision is powerful, it must be balanced with outer presence. Otherwise, you risk becoming so absorbed in the unseen that you lose touch with the tangible world. Another key part of navigating the deep waters is learning how to interpret what you receive. Not every message is meant to be acted upon immediately. Some are simply invitations to observe, reflect, and allow understanding to unfold naturally. Be especially cautious with prophetic or visionary experiences. They can feel compelling, even urgent, but rushing to share or act on them without discernment can lead to missteps. Let them settle. Give them time to reveal their true meaning. And remember, just because something feels profound doesn't mean it's meant for everyone. Some truths are personal, others are universal. Learn to tell the difference. Above all, resist the urge to label everything as spiritual or not. In the deep waters, such distinctions begin to dissolve. What matters is whether an experience brings greater alignment, clarity, and compassion, not whether it fits within any particular framework. As your perception continues to evolve, you'll find that ordinary moments carry extraordinary significance. A glance across a crowded room, a bird landing on your windowsill, a forgotten song playing at just the right time, these small synchronicities become the language of the universe speaking directly to you. And in those moments, you won't need explanations. You'll simply know. Navigating the deep waters isn't about reaching some final destination. It's about learning how to live with expanded awareness without losing your footing. It's about holding both mystery and practicality in balance, seeing clearly while still showing up fully in everyday life. So keep going, stay curious, trust your inner compass, and most importantly, stay grounded. Because the greatest discoveries aren't made in isolation. They're lived moment by moment in the quiet unfolding of a life deeply seen. 11. Return and integration. The real challenge begins after the awakening, bringing it back into daily life. What good is expanded awareness if it only exists in meditation or dreams? You may have touched something vast, something beyond thought, beyond time, beyond the usual sense of self. And for a while, you might feel tempted to stay there, lingering in that space of clarity and stillness. But eventually, you must return. You must come back to the world of bills, deadlines, relationships, and routines. That's where the true work begins, not in the moment of insight, but in how you carry it forward. Integration means living in both worlds at once, seeing clearly yet functioning normally, feeling deeply yet staying grounded, using your insights to make better choices, connect more authentically, and live more purposefully. It's not about becoming someone new. It's about becoming more fully yourself without illusion, without resistance, without unnecessary struggle. At first, this can be difficult. The mind resists change, especially when it challenges long-standing patterns. You may find yourself slipping back into old behaviors even after profound experiences. You'll catch glimpses of clarity, then feel pulled back into confusion. That's normal. Growth isn't linear, it's spiral. You circle around the same lessons until they settle deep within you. So don't expect perfection. Expect progress. Expect setbacks. Expect moments of doubt followed by sudden breakthroughs. One of the most effective ways to support integration is through consistent reflection. Keep a journal. Record your experiences and how they affect your behavior. Track patterns. Not just what you saw or felt during meditation, but how it shows up in your interactions, decisions, and emotions throughout the day. This kind of documentation helps you recognize the subtle shifts that might otherwise go unnoticed. It gives you a map of your inner terrain, a way to trace how insights evolve over time. For example, you may notice that after a particularly deep session, you respond differently to stress. Instead of reacting immediately, you pause. Or instead of getting caught up in frustration, you see the situation with more clarity. These are signs that the shift is settling into your nervous system. Another important part of integration is learning how to share selectively. Not every truth needs to be spoken aloud. Some insights are best kept private until the right moment, or never shared at all. There would be people who resonate with your journey and want to learn from it. There will also be those who misunderstand, dismiss, or even mock what you've experienced. That's okay. Not everyone walks the same path. Be discerning about who you open up to. Choose wisely. Share only what feels safe and appropriate. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply embody your understanding without needing to explain it. Above all, stay balanced. Expand your awareness, but remain rooted in the present. Let your inner vision enhance your life, not escape from it. You might begin to notice that your perception of time changes. Moments stretch. Ordinary events take on new meaning. You become more attuned to the rhythm of life, less caught up in its surface-level chaos. This doesn't mean you stop experiencing difficulty. Life still brings pain, loss, and uncertainty. But now you meet these challenges with a different kind of presence, one that sees beyond the immediate discomfort and holds space for deeper understanding. And this presence becomes your anchor. To strengthen it, continue practicing mindfulness in everyday life. Don't limit your awareness to formal meditation sessions. Bring it into your meals, your conversations, your movements. Learn to be fully present in each moment, no matter how small or mundane. Try this simple exercise. Pick one activity you do every day: brushing your teeth, washing dishes, walking to work. For the next week, do it with full attention. Notice the sensations in your body. Listen to the sounds around you. Feel the movement of breath. Resist the urge to multitask or drift into thought. After a few days, you'll likely notice a shift, a greater sense of calm, a deeper connection to what's happening right now. This is integration in action. As you continue integrating your insights, you may also find that your relationships begin to change. Some connections deepen as you show up more authentically. Others may fade as you outgrow old dynamics. This is natural. As your awareness expands, so does your ability to see what serves your growth and what no longer does. You begin to set clearer boundaries. You speak more honestly. You choose connection over obligation. And in doing so, you create space for more meaningful relationships to emerge. Don't rush this process. Integration takes time. You're rewiring neural pathways, shifting emotional patterns, and redefining your sense of identity. It's not something that happens overnight. But with patience, consistency, and compassion for yourself, it unfolds naturally. Eventually, you reach a point where the extraordinary becomes ordinary, not because it loses its wonder, but because your definition of normal has grown to include it. You no longer need special conditions to access depth. You can be fully present in a crowded room, in a stressful meeting, in the middle of heartbreak, and still touch that quiet knowing inside. That's the mark of true integration. Not constant ecstasy, not endless enlightenment, but the ability to hold space for both light and shadow, joy and sorrow, insight and confusion. And perhaps most importantly, you learn that spiritual growth isn't about reaching some final destination. It's about discovering infinite ways to explore, to evolve, and to live more fully in every moment. So keep going. Stay